A real estate investment is considered to be challenging venture in Ghana because of the capital involved. In this video, we interview a real estate strategist who has over 2 decades of experience both in Ghana and abroad. Currently, he manages one of the biggest real estate companies in Ghana. Viewers, if you've not subscribed, don't forget to click on the subscription button. Let's welcome Mr. Augustine Boateng to this channel. Mr. Boateng, you are welcome.
Thank you.
Real estate. If I may ask, what is real estate?
All right. Thank you, my brother. So when we say real estate is anything on land.
Okay.
So land and the development on it. So the development on it can be either a natural or artificial thing that has been put on the land. And technically, when we define land is defined as anything under, on, or above the physical land that we see.
Okay.
So that is generally the definition of real estate.
Okay. So what are the factors to be considered before one invests in a real estate?
I assume that those who invest in real estate, they are looking at the returns that they will get out of real estate. Generally, real estate is considered to be an investment that generates the best of returns. It's true to some extent, but the return that you will accrue from real estate investment basically depends on the factor that you really ask that we have to consider.
Okay.
And it's generally deemed that it's driven by 3 factors. Okay. The first one is location.
Okay.
The second one is location, and the third one is location.
Okay.
Location in the sense that the value that you get from a real estate investment is tied to the demand for the development that you put on the land.
Okay.
So if you put up a real estate or invest in a real estate assets, and the location is such that it will not drive demand, generally you will not get the perceived returns that you will be looking for. So once the location is right, there will be demand for the asset that you put on the land.
Okay.
And generally the returns from that investment will be the best. So it's generally location.
Okay. And you mentioned location. So if I may ask again, and this question is in context because we are talking about Ghana. Can you tell us which part of Ghana that if you want to invest, you look at?
Well, Ghana, like we know, we are now having 16 regions. Yeah. So we've already established that real estate investment is location driven. So you look at areas that will drive traffic or demand for your real estate investment. And in Ghana, out of the administrative regional capitals, you understand that some of the regional capitals, the activities over there, some of them are mainly commercial.
Okay.
And others is more services. And what drives demand for real estate is most of the time the service sector. So generally, Accra is deemed to be a place that drives more traffic for real estate investment. Okay. Simply because if you look at Accra, for example, if you look at Ghana in general, you look at the administrative buildings that exist in Ghana,
yeah,
most of them are in Accra.
Okay.
If you talk about the embassies,
yeah,
all the embassies, they have their head office in Accra. And when they have their head office in Accra, they will definitely also accommodate their diplomats in Accra.
Okay.
Talk about the international organization, be it UN, World Bank, UN, all the agencies, their offices are in Accra. And once the office is in Accra, their diplomats or the people who work for those entities, their accommodation will also be in Accra. So generally, Accra appear to give the best of returns because of the kind of people and the administrative structure that we have in Ghana.
Yeah.
All the entities, their head office, even the local entities, like National Health Insurance, their head office is in Accra. Passport office and all those kind of entities. So Accra, because of the service nature, seems to accrue or provide the best of returns in real estate investment compared with other regions.
Okay. So, Mr. Barton, if you take the map of Accra, because we are talking about, I mean, places that will let you have returns on your investment.
Yes.
So, Accra, can we be specific that, okay, Cantonment, East Legon, Roman Ridge, or there are other places that you can invest and still get your returns, apart from the places I've mentioned?
Yeah, so Accra generally has been zoned into 3 for investment purpose. We have the first class areas, we have the second class areas, then we have the third class areas.
Okay.
So when you talk about the first class areas, we are talking about Laboni, Cantonment, Ridge, Roman Ridge, East Legon, Adrigano, Jolu.
Okay.
All those areas are considered to be first class.
Okay.
And they are first class because of the nature of people who want to live in those areas or who want to have their offices around the area. So definitely the returns from those investments, in fact, the land values in those areas are extremely high. You understand? Because you're looking at an acre going for about $5-6 million for an acre. And because of the nature of investment and the nature of the exchange, the value of land around that area, they are now also putting up those land to the highest and best use of the land.
Yes.
You understand? Then you talk about the second class area. The second class areas, you're talking about Achimota, Tesano, Sphinx, Makati Hills, and those areas. Those areas are second class areas.
Okay.
Then when you talk about the third class area, the third class areas, you look at the traditional areas, Labadi, part of Adabraka, Osu. They are in the central business district, but because most of the houses over there, family houses, and because of that, most of the time the people are not ready to pay for that huge amount in exchange for those space. You understand? So those areas constitute, then by extension we also look at the peri-urban centers, area that are emerging. You understand? Some of them have even become second class, but the peri-urban areas can also be deemed to be part of the third class areas.
Okay. We know where to invest in terms of location. We know where to get our land. Now the major question is, how do we fund or finance this kind of investment? You know our income rate in Ghana. So as a startup, how do I finance my real estate project?
Yeah, I look at it this way. Real estate investment, like you rightly said in your intro, is capital intensive. So when you look at our earnings and you situate it within how much it will cost you to put up a real estate investment asset, you will get to know that per the empirical evidence, most Ghanaians or some Ghanaians will not have the privilege of owning their own house. And when we talk about real estate financing, we look at it from 2 angles. The amount required for one to put up his own house or buy from a developer. That's one aspect. And the other aspect of real estate investment is those who want to spend money in exchange for space. You understand? That aspect is also considered to be part of real estate investment. What generally we call in Ghana renting. You understand? So people who pay rent in exchange for space is still part of real estate investment. So to take the first one, investing, either you are buying or you are building by yourself, you look at it from the earning capacity of an average Ghanaian. The evidence is there, and I know that that data is a bit, research is a bit outdated. And I think we need to, the researchers have to go and get a new data. But the research that date back to 2007, and it was done by Bank of Ghana.
Okay.
It's so clear that only 5% of Ghanaians have what it takes, the capacity to either build or buy their own house.
Okay.
Using their own resources.
Okay.
5%.
Okay.
60% of the population will not be able to either build or buy a house by themselves. They will depend on having a financing from a source, either through a mortgage or through regular loan from their bankers. Then 35% of the population, to a larger extent, much as they wish that they will have their own houses, the evidence is that their finances cannot support they having their own finances. So that's where our focus should be. That 35%, how can we organize or how can we have a housing structure? Because housing is a basic need of life. So though they may not have the resources to have their own house, how do we make sure that as society they are also accommodated? You understand? That's where the renter bit comes in. But the reason why I said that we need to look at that research is that a lot has happened within that 2007 research, because we know that the cost of building has gone up so much, say that as at now, holding everything constant, there is a possibility that the variables have changed, and we need to look into that.
My next question is, can an average Ghanaian finance his own building project? If I say average Ghanaian, let's say someone who has a take home of 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, can the person finance his own project, or he would have to sort for financing elsewhere?
Yes, I still go back to your intro. That is challenging. It's challenging in the sense that you take an average Ghanaian to be, say, a teacher, whether a secondary school or primary school teacher, or even lecturers. You understand? If you look at their earning and you consider them to be average Ghanaian, it's difficult. And going back to the research, those who want to build by themselves, on average, it takes an average Ghanaian holding everything constant. It takes the person between 15 years up to about 20 years to be able to use his own resources and sometimes even add bank loans to be able to to develop a house by what I consider to be an incremental development. Because one of the things that we have to understand is that by the time an average Ghanaian will also consider building a house, he's also have to raise a family. And that family burden of making sure that there is food on the table for the family is there. And most of the time, if the person is not fortunate to be having maybe a family house that he will be living in, the person will have to also make sure that he's also paying rent
and then building at the
same time. So with all this kind of stuff, the evidence from the research suggests that we are looking at between 15 and 20 years to be able to build by what I consider to be an incremental building. So you usually maybe find either a loan or you save for a period, you acquire the land. Then after that, when you acquire the land, you then have to save again or go for another loan to maybe start the foundation. Then when you get the foundation,
you have to pause.
So you pause, and if you are fortunate, everything goes smooth. But if in the course of time, it happens that there is a family challenge that requires that you need to pause. Sometimes you can pause about 5 years or so before you go back to the building. So that's the challenge in putting up or buying from a developer.
I mean, from your experience, would you advise in terms of investing into housing or estate? Should I go commercial or residential in terms of the returns? that if I go commercial, do I have more money? And then, or if I go residential, do I have more money? So if I say commercial, like want to put up an office space and rent it out, and then a residential, maybe we want to put up an apartment and rent it. Which one is the best?
Well, let's go generally. We define real estate as anything on land.
Yeah.
So it's the usage, and it's not only limited to commercial and residential. Okay. It can even be recreational, and it can be one of the things that really interests me. Okay. Is that investor who decided to turn a central area in Accra into cemetery. Yeah. Gethsemane.
The Gethsemane is legal.
You understand?
Yes.
Generally, everybody would have thought that East Legon land will have to go for residential. Yes. But we all know that it appears, although I don't have the figures, it appears to be one of the best and smart investment that the investor made. You understand? Good. So there are different uses that you can put a land into. Okay. You understand? Whether commercial, residential, recreational, or what have you, is location driven, and to a large extent is also dependent on the amount of money that we are having, and if you like, the financial mix. Whether you have your own equity or maybe there is a debt somewhere. You understand? Location will be the key driver. Okay. You understand?
Whether to go commercial or
yes. Okay. Because if you have a land in a busy commercial area, you understand?
You don't put up residential.
You don't want to put up residential because the only time that you want to put up the residential is when you know that the people who are undertaking the commercial activity are looking for accommodation. You understand? So the first thing that you want to do is to do a market survey. Okay. When you do the market survey will reveal to you. Okay. And after that, you have to do a serious feasibility studies. Okay. Because the feasibility study will at least help you to establish the demand for whatever thing that you want to put up. So if you take something like residential and your view is that you want to, as we say in Ghana, rent, and technically, let me say, when you say you are renting out a space, it's not technically right. Okay. Rent is the money that you generate for exchanging a space. Okay. So the right word is you are letting out a space. So when you want to put up a commercial, say a residential apartment, and the intention is that you want to let out the space, the first thing you want to do before you even invest, because the feasibility study is so important that if you don't get the feasibility study right and looking at the capital involved, you may throw your money down the drain. Okay. So the first thing that you want to do is to do a market survey. One, if you are putting up an apartment and you want to sell, and the intention is that you are selling to people with a view that they can let out the space and also recoup their investment. Because it's location driven. One, you don't expect people who, I mean, it's the people who live around who will be letting out the space. So if your investment is said that the space that you provide technically to recoup your investment require that you need to let out the space as say 4,000 Ghana cedis for an apartment, and it turns out that the demography of the people around that area cannot support that. The people cannot afford a 4,000 Ghana cedis, say a month rent. Okay. It means right from the word go, if you put up that apartment, you will go into difficulty because the people who will buy will struggle to get the tenants because they don't have the money. You understand? To pay for that. So right from the word go, and technically when we talk about real estate investment, you are not selling houses. You are in the business of selling spaces. It's the space that you are selling. Okay. So you need to make sure that you get your costing of the space as against what the market is dictating right. Okay. To the extent that if that space that will warrant say a 4,000 Ghana cedis rent is a say 100 square meters, why don't you reduce it to say 75 square meters? Okay. So that the cost of construction will come down. The rent that you also be expecting to also come down. Maybe to move from 4,000 Ghana cedis to say 2,000 Ghana cedis, which will be within the income range of the people within that locality. Likewise, if you are also investing in commercial, you need to do so. It's about feasibility study and getting it right. If you don't get it right and you pump money and you are driven by the fact that there is demand, there is always demand because people are looking for accommodation. But can the people afford? And it's only market survey that will reveal that truth.
Robani, thank you very much. Each person I interview on this platform, I ask a question, and I want to throw the same question to you. As a young guy starting up, would you advise that I buy a property, a commercial space, be it residential or commercial, or I build it myself from scratch?
Thank you very much. We've already established that acquiring a house in Ghana is challenging. And we've also indicated that from all the research, if you take an average builder 15 years to be able to complete the house, even if not more, and we have to do that together with other competing needs. And we also indicated about 60% way back 2007 research, we need a financing of a sort. It's most likely that figure has even gone up now. Now, when it comes to real estate investment, you don't want to attach any emotions into it. You just have to be as realistic as possible. The argument has always been that if you are buying or you are going for mortgage, it's expensive. But now look at the fact that 15 years you are building a house and you are getting no economic returns from that, how that you are so much putting money into. And it's very guarantee that by 15 years or so, you will have even finished the house. I will say that if not for the economic challenge that we are having now, which has manifested in higher interest rates in terms of mortgage, and the construction cost for developers is also going up, I will always advocate that as a beginner, in order to make sure that you don't have this duality of raising a family and building at the same time. You get a mortgage as quickly as possible. Then once you get a mortgage, at least you know that every month you are paying for the mortgage, and whatever is left is what you will be using to take care of your family needs. And over time, you know very well that within the next 15 years, you will have finished the mortgage. And one advantage about having a mortgage is very simple. If you put up your house and it turns out that you have the house, it's difficult for you to have a linkage with the financial institution. Because we are looking at real estate investment. If somebody goes for mortgage, and let's say the mortgage is $100,000, by the time he will struggle to pay the mortgage, there is a relationship with the bank, and the relationship will be that this man is having a house worth $100,000 because they finance it. And out of that, you can easily leverage on that $100,000 to even raise equity and use it to drive more value in your personal life. Like if you put up a house by yourself, it's there most of the time. You don't know even the land registration bit. You even struggle to get your own title and all manner of stuff, and there will be a disconnect between you having an asset $100,000 or even more, and your relationship with bank. So if you end up being asset rich, the cash poor, but the one who goes for mortgage, there's a relationship, and they can easily leverage on that to create more value. So my bit is that when the economic condition is favorable, I will always advise that you go for a mortgage, and the mortgage is usually through those who develop, because the mortgage is the developers that through that venture that you can go for for mortgage. And even if you want to build, now they also put that that you can also mortgage. So whatever thing that will help you to connect with the financial institution, so that your financial the real estate assets, it's not just a building, it's also an economic asset that you can use to create more value and also easy to make sure that you get the best out of the real estate investment.
Which means that from your point of view, you look at what suits you.
Yes.
If you are in the position to buy and you are in the capacity, you can buy. If you want to build, you can build. But then you advise, you look at a financing option from either the bank or your creditors or whoever. Thank you very much for passing through. So viewers, Mr. Buildinginghana, he is a real estate strategist. He has been in this sector for over 2 decades and he is well versed into it. If you followed the interview, you realize that you've learned a lot from this interview, and we hope to bring him back again. Thank you for watching. Please drop your comment in the comment section so that it will help us improve on our next video. Thank you for watching. See you on the other side. Bye bye.